And we are live, Mel. Here we go. Good evening, Texas bikers and bikers all across the nation. This is Texas Biker Radio number 385, and we are live tonight. And I'm my co-host, Mel O.G. Robbins, who is talking to us via telephone or cell phone from McKinney, Texas. And I'm here in the Green Dragon studio here in Arlington, Texas. And good evening, Mel. How are you doing?
Doing good. Sitting here with a tall one in front of me.
There you go. I meant to make me a Bloody Mary before I come out here, and I forgot about it. I had to rush out here to turn on the heat. I don't know who in the hell said it could get cold, but man, I'm ready. I'm ready for it to warm up again. But that'll be this weekend. It's always nice when that happens. Mel, let's talk about, now let me get this mic out of the way. Okay. Let's talk about due process. And right now, today, if you listen to any of that mess that's going on in Washington, D.C., you heard the president's attorneys, if you could make it past, what's his name? Adam Schifferbrains. If you could get past that, if he didn't put you to sleep, you could hear the president's counsel talking, and they were talking about the lack of due process for the president. And, Mel, as we look out there and the things that we are learning about our community and in particular about motorcycle profiling, and Mel, we mentioned, I don't know, probably what was it, 2 years ago when or last summer when we were talking about all the motorcycle profiling that was going on and the heat that was being put on law officers to populate these gang databases. And we talked about the ability for police officers to put you into a gang database without knowing anything about you, based on what you were wearing or who you might associate with. And Mel, there on the side of the road, he was the judge, jury, and everything else. And what was lacking there was any kind of due process. And now that everybody knows about Willie Fisk out there in New Mexico, who got put into a Texas gang database, well, he sued in federal court over the lack of due process. He was denied due process because he was put in. Yeah, go ahead. Make us. Yeah.
You want to know the truth about due process at this point? The truth about due process is whatever they want it to be in whatever particular area you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else has been thrown out the window.
Yeah.
Due process is a laugh. It is by the local definition of whatever the hell it is they want it to be, as are your constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. Nobody gives a crap anymore about the Constitution, due process. They just flat don't care because they dare you to come back at them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's probably the most frustrating thing in the world right now is, what it's supposed to be, how it's supposed to be, and you witness these clowns out there manipulating the system. And it can be different everywhere you go. It can be a variation because it's what the local good old boys want it to be.
That's exactly right. But Willie Fisk is winning in federal court, and everybody should take notice all across the nation. Everybody. And these gang databases that have erroneous data because they're taken, the information is taken by biased individuals who have bought into a narrative, and who are fixated on just one little part of the Criminal Code of Procedures, but they've thrown the Constitution and due process and your rights out the window. Go ahead.
Yeah. Further witness of that fact is if you look at the complaint that was filed by Willie Fisk and his attorney, Millie Thompson, it specifies the criteria that is supposed to be used for someone to be entered into the database.
Right.
Now, that is what you would call due process. Now, it is blatantly obvious that the locals don't follow that. They're not following it anywhere. As specifically witnessed by a posting here not too long ago that Paul Landers made involving 20 police officers in the state of California that were under investigation because they were inadvertently entering people into their crime criminal database out there simply because they wanted them to be in it. They were pissed off at certain individuals, and by golly, they ended up in the database.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean every law enforcement official does that? No, hell no. There are a lot of good law enforcement people out there. But the problem is you got these bad apples that start doing this, and until they start really taking these people to task and flushing them out, draining the swamp, as Trump would say, then, it's just going to continue. And it's going to frustrate the hell out of everyone.
Well, nobody gives a damn but us and a whole lot of other bikers out there. A whole lot. We've got a plan going into 2020. I'm not going to say what it all is because law enforcement listens to these programs. But, Mel, we've got people that have been harassed, sent to jail, and now face criminal charges. And the lack of due process from the moment they were pulled over by the police officers, and maybe not from the moment they were pulled over by police officers, because you can be put into one of these gang databases and not even know it. Just like you mentioned the California gang database there that had children in it. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. But Mel, we're going to ask people to continue. Not only it may be your first time to see if you're in a Texas gang database, and I would say any place across the nation. Check and see if you're in a gang database, if they have one in your area, and I'm sure they do. And
well, Sunday at our Texas Council of Clubs and Independents meeting, an excellent point was brought up. I had brought up the point that everybody needs to go to the state site in Texas to check out the Texas gang database. And I was describing to them how to do it, the fact that we've got that button on Texas Biker Radio, blah, 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 blah.
On the front page.
And one thing I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said on the front page, TexasBikerRadio.org.
Now, I did fail to mention one thing, which I thought was a really brilliant observation, and it was brought up by one of the gentlemen there at the meeting. Because after I finished, he spoke up and said, everybody in this room that either has a concealed carry license or
Yes.
carries a gun, firearm in your motorcycle pursuant to the Texas Castle Law, where your motorcycle is your motorcycle or your vehicle is an extension of your home,
Exactly.
you best check to make sure you're not in that database, because if you're in the database, local law says you're going to get that gun confiscated and you're going to be arrested for illegal carry.
Right.
So if for no other reason than to make sure you don't get popped for some stupid reason, and I'm telling you, there are people in that database that don't know they're in it.
Yep.
They've got people in that database, don't think they just got bad guys in that database. They have all kinds of people in there. They've even got one of our patch holders in there that's never been in trouble in his life, and there's no reason for him to even be in there, but yet he is in there simply because he must have been somewhere attending an event, or like Fisk, the way he got in there. I mean, you're talking about a veteran belonging to a veteran motorcycle club who attended a funeral in El Paso, Texas. And because he was at that funeral, he ended up in the Texas criminal database. That's how it can happen. You can be near somebody or at an event, never realizing that photographs are being taken of license plates, etc., and your name ends up in the database because you were there. You're an associate. You're a known associate.
Right.
And you may not even realize it. So everybody, everywhere, I don't care what state you're in, find out how you query that state database and make sure your name isn't in it. And if it is, and there's no reason in hell for it to be in there, then you best get a hold of an attorney, just like Fisk did. Take that thing to federal court and do like Fisk. He didn't sue for money.
Yeah.
Which really grabbed the judge's attention, and
Yes,
I
it
think
did.
put things in a lot more favorable light for Fisk. Because the judge ruled entirely in their favor on all counts except for one, and he hasn't ruled against it. He actually has suspended his ruling on that one, giving Fisk and his attorney the opportunity to file a brief, and that is on the First Amendment part, where you have a right to associate.
Right. Exactly.
And that takes care of what I've been talking about, is because you went to a funeral or an event, you didn't realize that you were in a place that was under surveillance.
Yeah, Mel, it's,
So-
let's talk about known associates for a second, because we've learned that if you are a biker that may go to some of these places that other bikers go to, in particular the top clubs or the Diamond Patch clubs, you can find that your wife ends up in the gang database as a known associate. Your parents can end up in the gang database as a known associate. I suggest to you that you have your wife, your spouse, your parents, anybody else, and have that is in constant contact with you, or maybe when you go to visit them or something, make sure and check and see if they're in the gang database. And were they allowed due process? Would they know? Would they know that they've been turned into what a police officer would see as a potential criminal? I mean, these things need to be checked out. There needs to be some accountability. And Mel, in Fisk's courtroom. What was it? What was that called? Report that we saw, that we read. What do they call that? Anyway, in that thing, it gave the how you get into a gang database. Mel, do you think they're following any of that? Maybe just one or two things. Did you see what I was talking
There
about?
was, they listed, gosh, I saw like 4 or 5 criteria
Yeah.
that, you had to meet certain points of this criteria before you could enter somebody into the database,
Mm-hmm.
which is meaningless according to what we've seen happening.
Exactly.
It appears to be that at any time, if they want to put you in the gang database, they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to be held accountable for this,
Yeah, they do.
because it's not right.
And you guys out there, not only should you check to see if you're in the gang database, but if you are and you think you don't belong there, or if you haven't been in trouble with the law, convicted of anything, and you find out that you're in it, take action. And one of the first things you can do is let us know so we can document it.
Yeah, because one of the elements there is even if you've got a prior conviction,
Mm-hmm.
if you have been conviction free or paper free for a certain number of years, and it might vary from location to location, but if you have been free of any further charges, etc., you have every right in the world to get your name pulled from that database.
Exactly.
And the reason being is DPS here locally even admitted, just because someone's name is in that crime or in that criminal database does not mean they are guilty of a crime
Right.
or they're a criminal.
Exactly. That's exactly what it says. It doesn't.
And
It doesn't identify.
And you can't use that as evidence in a court.
Right. It does that when the officer gets that information on the side of the road. That information doesn't identify you as a gang member. It identifies you as a potential gang member. But Mel, they're going to see you as a gang member.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to treat you as if you're a gang member.
And if you've got a weapon in your motorcycle, you're going to the weapon's going to be confiscated and you're going to be arrested for illegal carry.
Exactly. But remember, everybody, it's now time to act. And due process is now the name of the game. Due process is what's lacking, not only in our courtrooms in Texas and by our police officers in Texas and by our politicians. They need to understand what's going on and what effect it has.
Well,
and
part of the problem is they're passing these damn laws and they don't even know what the hell they've passed.
Exactly.
As witnessed by a conversation you had with a state representative who didn't even realize they'd passed something like that into law.
Yeah. That's when he says, hey, Mel, how's this happen? Well, hell, you passed the law.
Yeah.
That's how it happens. Well, actually, what happens is the DPS and the commission that heads up the DPS, they have a group of commissioners. They work diligently to lead our politicians around by the nose. And when they pass these type laws like 46.02, they don't understand when they do it what the ramifications are down the line to the citizens. And last time I checked, yeah, we're all citizens. We're not as described by law enforcement. And, as we pointed out in previous shows, Mel, you look out there across this country, you look out here across this state, you look out here across the cities that we live in, motorcycle clubs are not the problem. I don't know how many times we have to say that before it sinks in.
They're actually working to help the community they live in.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So we need everybody to keep working. We need everybody to keep getting evidence. We need everybody to keep taking videos when you are stopped by a law enforcement officer. I promise you that's your only protection. We need you to check and see if you're in the gang databases and let us know the results. And now check and see if your family members are in the gang database or your close friends. Now, Mel, I tell me, when we first started checking this, what kind of information? Did they ask you for a Social Security number? I don't remember that.
No.
Well, they are now.
No, they don't. Oh, are they now?
Yeah. I don't even
Holy.
remember. I don't even remember them asking me for my driver's license number. Maybe they did.
Yeah, the first time I checked, I didn't have to provide a Social Security.
Yeah.
What they're trying to do is scare people off.
Exactly, everybody. Now, the truth is, if they want your driver's license number, give it to them. They can get it anyway. They don't need your Social Security number. And matter of fact, as I've heard that if you give them your driver's license number, that's enough. Now, like we said, check and see if you're in a gang database. That will not get you put into the gang database. But go ahead and give them your driver's license.
The latest word is, from most people, they have yet to hear back after weeks.
Right.
They used to reply promptly.
Yeah. Well,
now it's become an ordeal to get an answer.
I was at Region 1's meeting that I was at on Sunday. I was talking to Clutch, who's the Texas Defender. I don't think they call him commanders anymore. He's the head coordinator. But he was talking about when he checked to see if he was in it, he got several answers. At first, they told him he was in it. Then they came back and told him he wasn't in it.
Yeah.
So
make up your mind.
Yeah. So it kind of tells me that the people that are running these things just may not know what they're doing. Or maybe it's like they told our Houston chapter. The night shift handles that. I mean, they try to keep that thing a super secret organization. They don't want to tell you anything if they don't have to. But when you go to civil court, now, that changes the ball game.
Keep pressing.
Yeah. That changes the ball game. And so they're going to have to come up with some answers. And they're going to have to come up with some data sooner or later that explains what it is they're doing. And Mel, let me say this. Governor Abbott and Ken Paxton and that damn DPS commission, they should be on the hot seat. They're running a loose knit organization when it comes to gang databases. They've gotten away with it so far. But the day is coming when they're going to have to account for the errors and everything else that's going on with it. Mel, they're fixing to build more fusion centers. The heat is going to be on to populate those fusion centers. And that's
Yeah,
how,
because that's the only way they're going to get them funded.
I promise you, that's how the erroneous data, well, besides buying into the narrative that all motorcycles or motorcycle riders or, club members are criminals, especially those that, have made it into their gang assessment reports, which is another piece of work. They have bought into that, and they're pushing everything ahead, and they're doing all this stuff to get money, to get more, like we've said many, many times. And they're just pushing the envelope until somebody does something to say, hey, where's the accountability? What the hell's going on here? And why am I being railroaded? And OG, I want to say thanks to all the bikers out there who have gone to court. Guys like Willie Fisk, guys like Patrick in Milam County, and you can go all the way back to Twin Peaks when all the bikers stood there and said, I ain't taking a plea bargain. Nobody stepped up to take a plea bargain. Scooter Bergman.
And that's what they were counting on.
That's right. Scooter Bergman. Jake Carizal, who stood tall. We got all these guys that are standing up, that are taking tyranny on. Because let me tell you, that's what this is. When they start violating your constitutional rights, whether it be freedom of speech, whether it be your Second Amendment rights, whether they deny you due process, and any other part of the Constitution that they want to take away from you, the Fourth Amendment in particular. I mean, come on, everybody. In the coming weeks and months, we're going to be executing the plan. And I want you guys to stay tuned, not only in Texas, but all across the nation, because you can do this too. It's like I said, if you've got a gang database, or you are, and I'm sure you do, in whatever state you're in, whatever city you might be in, check and see if you're in it. And if you think you don't belong there, if you've never been in trouble, do something. Don't sit there and just take it. Get involved. And Mel, when you see what's going on in the nation's capital, you know they're going to be coming after our constitutional rights, in particular the Second Amendment. We have got literally lunatics that are out there waiting to do these things, whether it be destroy the Constitution, whether it be to destroy our economy. I mean, good Lord.
Well, and let's be specific too. We're not in favor of a criminal gang database. We think it can be a useful tool. The issue is it should be run and managed as specified.
Mm-hmm.
Then it becomes a viable tool, and they can maintain intelligence on real gangs, not because they're pissed off at somebody and they just want to put them in the database, or it's somebody's mom or dad that showed up for a funeral, which is ridiculous.
Yeah. You know, Mel, there's on our live chat, they're talking about the law enforcement wanting to make examples of us. In other words, they want to try and influence club members, by harassing and doing the things they're doing. And I would say about that kind of stuff, for the most part, that doesn't work. Because bikers generally are going to stand up. They're going to fight. They're going to fight back. That's in our nature. And I don't let them keep trying. We need more evidence. And when the weather comes around to where we're all back out there on the highways and byways again, you think this won't ramp back up? Just saying, everybody. Just saying. And let's see. I think let's see. Oilfield trash. We're talking about the president supports red flag laws. Let me say this about most politicians, and especially our local politicians, because I've been in this game quite some time. They'll always go stand next to law enforcement, like Governor Abbott, who lets the DPS lead him around by the nose. It's just a thing that happens with politicians. And we'll see if that red flag law gets off the ground. I mean, look what's going on in Virginia. And Mel, I'm proud of those guys. Hell, I don't think they had a single problem.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah, and all the groups that claimed they were going to come there and start problems, they were no shows. So much for that. But you know what? All these guys that do these rallies, I mean, they're pretty much know that they can't have anything happen at these type rallies. And they're not there for that. They're there to be with like-minded people and show their support. That's what that's all about. It's not about confronting anyone. It's about showing how you feel about how they're doing, what they're doing. And I spent some time up in Virginia. Have cousins that live up there. Most of them are filtering back slowly. But, it was a good thing. And all you can do is say, hey, look, I'm proud of them. We are Second Amendment advocates, that's for sure. It wouldn't be the first time that we have been to a Second Amendment rally. I've been to many of them. So it probably won't be the last, right, Mel?
That's right. That's right. They're going to keep trying to come after them anyway.
That's exactly right. Especially if we're crazy enough to vote in the loonies.
Therein lies the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. If you got, I can tell you, if you've got a kid in college, they're getting pounded on every day about it. Every day. Either through their professors or other lunatics around the campus. I know my granddaughters get a full court press made at them about political issues, and especially from the liberal slant. Well, here we go. But wow. Now, you got anything else you want to add? I just really wanted to come on tonight and get the word out that we've got to keep it going. We've got to keep collecting data. We need your videos when you're stopped by law enforcement and they do things that are silly, or they take you to jail because you've crossed the white line, or maybe take you to jail because you have loud pipes, or take you to jail because you have because you're legally carrying a weapon. And remember, there is no such thing as guilt by association. That law does not exist. Now, you got anything you want to add?
No, I think we pretty well covered it.
And everybody will be back on. We'll be back on. If something happens out there we feel needs to get out there now, we'll be coming on sooner than our weekly podcast.
Absolutely.
Just know that we're out there working for you. Sons of Liberty Riders MC. We're defenders of the Constitution and those that have had their constitutional rights violated. Everybody, have a good evening. Have a good rest of the week. And I hope your weekend is going to be as good as ours.
And be safe out there.
That's right. Ride safe, everybody. Ride safe. Oh, and thank you, you new members that have joined us. Stay tuned. It's going to get exciting. This is Butch Popeye Moss with Texas Biker Radio.
Good night.
Good night.